Right then, let's move on to talk about Romeo Lavia then. I will bring the tweeter from Court Offside, who promoting your article, who says, Lavia is now Liverpool's priority after Szoboszlai was chosen over to Ram. We'll focus on that first, we'll come to the other stories later. You mentioned before the DMs and stuff then, and it does feel as if they're going to do anything in midfield, that is the case. Now, I did see James Pearce tweet.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you want to bring that up as well?
And I'll bring James Pearce's tweet up now as well. He says, Romeo Lavia is admired, but LFC are not currently pursuing a third new face in midfield, including Trent. They've got 9 options in that department, and then the situation is only likely to change if someone leaves. Also a feeling that Lavia is massively overpriced at 50 million. We'll talk about the second part of that later, in terms of the outgoings.
Yeah.
But where are we at with Lavia then? Is it they're going to go for him? They're going to wait and see? What's your understanding of where they are with this deal?
I think same as we said on Monday, really, that if there's a deal that makes sense, both in terms of the fee and the wages, I think will make sense for Liverpool, for most clubs really. This isn't a sort of, Jude Bellingham or Declan Rice sort of Mason Mount situation, 250,000 or whatever a week. The wages will make sense. If the fee makes sense with Southampton, and as James puts it, and correctly, 50 million doesn't make sense. I don't think for any club. But I don't think it makes sense for Liverpool. If the fee makes sense, I think Liverpool will make a move. Obviously, the sort of joker in the pack is there's a couple of other clubs. I think Arsenal in particular were a sort of article from I think it's Tom Allnut in the Times saying that once they've got Rice done, they're going to go for Lavia. They've just signed Timber, they've just signed Havertz. They're obviously splashing some cash this summer. Arsenal, that obviously factors into it, and the fact that Liverpool, as James puts it, Liverpool got 9 options. If nobody leaves, that must factor into the player's decision as well. If you're leaving Southampton at 19, having just had your first season of playing regularly, and you're looking and thinking, right, where am I going to play? You'd have to look at other, there'll be other clubs I think who could maybe make him promises that Liverpool possibly can't make him at the moment. Arsenal letting Xhaka go, letting Thomas Partey go potentially, that might factor into Lavia's thinking. Chelsea letting all the midfielders go, bar a couple, gives them a bit of room to make promises. Liverpool, I don't know, can they make that promise? Is the promise you wait a year and you'll take over from Fabinho and Jordan Henderson? Are Liverpool willing to go to that stage of, no, we want you straight in our team? I'd be surprised personally. And if they were, then they'd be willing to pay whatever, I suppose, wouldn't they? But I think it'll all come down to what Southampton want and how much other clubs are willing to push for a player as well, because it's clearly not. This isn't like Szoboszlai, really, or even McAllister, But Szoboszlai had the release clause, and the path was clear once Newcastle were out of that race. This isn't like that. I think there's still a few bits in the path, so we'll see whether Liverpool take that plunge. I still think there's a fair chance they might. If you want to move on to what we were talking about in terms of if someone leaves, I think there's probably a chance someone leaves.
Yeah, I suppose we'll talk about the leaving in a second, but it feels a bit to me like I've used this phrase in the past and I've had a bit of stick for it. You can be a bit opportunistic with this one. It isn't one that's desperate to get done. If they were desperate, you could just go and get him. If I felt like they were desperate to get number 8, and they knew they had to do it, and it worked out in the end because they went and found 2 who had release clauses. But if they were absolutely convinced, they were desperate for a forward, so they went and got Darwin Núñez. They just went and did it. I was thinking with Lavia, it isn't like Southampton would sell him. I think we'd all agree.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
So
it makes no sense. It makes no sense for them not to. So it feels to me, and again, I don't know your opinion on this. It is a little bit like we like him. We're not. I don't know what the word is. We're not absolutely desperate for a defensive midfielder. We're quite comfortable with what we've got. But if a deal was there to be done, then we'll be there.
Yeah, possibly. And also maybe had Southampton stayed up, maybe there would be a general feeling in the market that, oh good, okay, well let's just leave him another year and let's see if he can do it again. I mean, you have to. It won't be a popular thing, this, because people don't like some of the players Liverpool already have, really. But he's not played that much more football than Stefan Bajcetic.
20 games more.
Yeah,
like
he's not looked that different, Stefan Bajcetic, in the way that he plays, you know, in terms of he's a very silky and sort of composed player, you know, beyond his years. He's only a little bit older than Bajcetic, I think. He's probably a few months. Yeah. So, you know, if you're gonna pay, if you were gonna pay £50 million when you've got a player there that is at least, and listen, we'll see, time will tell where they both pitch up in their career, and you know, but if he's at least comparable by Chelsea to him, I don't think you can. I personally don't think you can argue with the stance from any club, but Liverpool, of saying £50 million, a lot of money for him at this stage, you know. And if they decided that, if that was where they got to, even 40 million, and Liverpool said that's too rich for our blood, I don't think you could really have a great argument with that, unless Liverpool had sort of decided that he was the one. And then said no, but not for 40 million. It's like, well, that would be different. I don't know how good he'll end up being. He looks very good, doesn't he? He looks stylish as well, the way he plays, doesn't he? I think that sort of feeds into it a little bit, that he looks the part for a young lad. But I think that's the same with Bajcetic. I think that's what people have loved so much about him, is the confidence that he's played with. And if you've got him, Bajcetic has played, I think 19 games, is it? And Lavia has played 36 in his career. And Bajcetic has played them in the Champions League, and in, you know, at the top end of the Premier League. Lavia's played them in the bottom end of the Premier League and ended up in a team that was relegated. So it wouldn't at all. What was the way I was going to put it? Was, you have to. I think Liverpool have to factor that into their valuation of the player. Liverpool have to think, well, hang on,
is he £50 million better than Stefan Bajcetic?
Yes, exactly that. I mean, Liverpool paid what, 250,000, less than 250,000 for Bajcetic. Different reasons, different age, but Liverpool could say, well, we've invested that. We could have we got a £50 million player in Bajcetic? Possibly, you know, not yet, but certainly there's a feeling that there's potential for him to become a very, very good asset for Liverpool. Probably in the first team, possibly even going forward.
Is there a case as well, and people might not like this, and I'm very much aware that this might end up getting shared everywhere, but like, having just signed McAllister and Szoboszlai, if you're looking at number 8 now, you've got those two, Jones, Elliott, put Thiago in there if you want. You mentioned Cody Gakpo before.
Henderson.
Well, I was about to, that eased my point. If Liverpool think, you know, Fabinho's your first DM and, say, for example, Bajcetic is your second, if needs must, Jordan Henderson, he isn't going to be on the pitch as much in advanced positions. He's almost like James Milner's done this in the past, where, you know, if needs be, I'll play DM, third, fourth choice doing it, because there's no clear path really, I don't think. And listen, right, Jordan Henderson off at your pedal and whatever, but like, if he's not going to be in the team in those 4 positions, there could be times where you think, you know what, do we want to spend £50 million on Lavia, or when he might be second choice, he might be third choice, and we have got Jordan, you know, if needs absolutely must. I don't know if does that factor into the thinking perhaps?
Possibly. I mean, I still, assuming they're at the club, I expect Fabinho and Henderson will play a lot of football this season. You know, there's always this sort of desire to, that's that, you know. Milner had it a lot, didn't he? You know, it was always Milner won't play, and lo and behold, at the start of last season, Milner was playing quite regularly, you know, often found his way back into the team, certainly found himself back on the bench. I think Henderson will be the same. I think he'll play football on that right side in games. I think he'll play football probably deeper in games. We don't know what system Liverpool are going to play yet, do we? You know, they might play with 2, like 4-2-3-1 almost. They might play with a box. They might play with the classic 4-3-3 that we've seen. Probably have a go at all of them at some point. But yeah, possibly that comes into. I mean, if you've got 230, you know, well, you've got Thiago and Henderson who are 30, well into the 30s, and you've got Fabinho who's approaching his 30s, and to be fair, has played at times like he's, you know, a few years older than he is. If you've got doubts over their legs, then yeah, possibly you can put them on a sort of a bit of a relay system and say, well, you don't have to play every game. You can come in and do that. And the other factor is obviously what you're doing with Trent, isn't it? You know, what you need from your sort of holding midfielder. At times, you know, Fabinho struggled when he almost felt like he was holding the fort on his own. If you've got another one in there with him, you may be doing a little bit less sort of, you know, less is expected of you. You're not having to build the game as much. You sort of almost just go and win the ball back, and then Trent sort of does all the playmaking, and we deal with it from there. And we've got the number 10s or the advanced midfielders who, you know, give you better options when you've got the ball. So it's all part of the consideration. I think the bottom line with Lavia is, does the deal make sense at this stage? You know, I think there's a price where it does. I think there's a price where it doesn't. And I think if we're talking, if that is Southampton's asking price, and of course they're going to start high, but if it's £50 million, I would say it doesn't make sense for Liverpool.
Hey guys, would you like to watch that show and all our other amazing Redmen Plus content for half price? I'm sure you will. Well, head on over to redmenplus.com right now. Sign up as a yearly club captain subscriber and get yourself 50% off by using the code BOBBY, BOBBY. You'll get the full Journo Insight with Neil. We also spoke about Thiago, Henderson, and loads more. You get the Bobby Firmino doc, all the full interviews, and all amazing content. So yeah, redmenplus.com, yearly captain. Use code BOBBY, get 50% off, and I'll see you over there.
Hey, so pre-season is just around the corner for the mighty Reds, but if you want to spend your days, weeks and hours celebrating a Liverpool legend, then check out Bobby Firmino, Best in the World, our 3-part documentary series, episodes 2 and 3 exclusively streaming on redmenplus.com right now, with full interviews from so many of our amazing contributors, including the Liverpool skipper Jordan Henderson, the greatest goal scorer the club's ever seen, Ian Rush, and a hell of a lot more right now. Go to redmenplus.com. All episodes of Bobby Firmino, Best in the World, streaming today.